amazing schools. One is the institution that we're standing in today, the second high school in Poznań, with the other one being a high school way over the pond in Bolivar, Missouri, in the USA. I would like to talk to you today about education and how it influences each and every one of us. I was able to take part in a US high school for a year, and I learned of an entirely alternate lifestyle and a different approach. One thing about exchanges is that they influence you irreversibly. It for sure changed me. I not only learned confidence through public speaking contests on my exchange, but I also realized that a town could function without almost a single sidewalk. That's American architecture for you. When I first stepped out of my host dad's truck in Bolivar, Missouri, I was absolutely shocked. There was a dinosaur in my front yard. No, not a real one. It was this 4-foot iron-cut sculpture that my host dad, Robert, created himself. One thing about Americans is that their front yards are absolutely spotless. They will often have these decorative elements like flowers, and some even put on light shows for occasions like Christmas or Halloween. Now, another thing about Americans is that each of us probably has an idea of what the US is like. I know I certainly had a very pretty picture painted by years of exposure to Hollywood movies and Netflix shows. I'm here to tell you that while much of that is true, like the schooling, the yellow school buses, and the food, then some other aspects like the violence and the negative experiences that students can have are also realistic. Now, as I'm here to talk to you today about education, and America has a very specific way of going about it. For one, in American high schools, you don't have classes like we do. You don't have 1A or 1B. Students are grouped within their entire age group. They have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Another matter is that they don't get into high schools like we do. They don't apply. They are simply grouped in by the region that they live in. While this does introduce many possibilities and chances, it's also a very limiting factor, as you come to find, because of the fact that students are limited to what the local curriculum is, what classes are offered by the school, as well as what funding the local school district even possesses. It is important to remember, because, for instance, I was able to take part in a world history class for a year. And while it was great fun, we laughed a lot, and we had many fun experiences, not much was learned in that class, because every exam that we took was open note, meaning that we had access to every note that we had taken during that module. While this did inspire and result in many high grades, not much knowledge was carried out, and I didn't see many students pursuing that avenue of knowledge later on. Now, one of the reasons for this controversial educational system is the higher education scheme, college. I'm sure you've heard about it, or at least its exorbitant price. Now, tuition may range from about $15,000 per year at a local small community college. That price may raise to about $40,000 per year in just tuition at institutions like Yale or Harvard, the Ivy League in general. A very interesting result of that system is the college sports institution. An interesting fact is that that industry alone generated over $15.8 billion in 2019, according to the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletics Association. Now, as many of these colleges are private, they have to make their money in other ways than the government or just tuition. And that is the sports institution. And for many students, the way to attending college, instead of paying these exorbitant amounts or taking out loans, are sports scholarships. To be able to attain for one of these, students are encouraged to keep a perfect attendance, a 4.0, which is the highest GPA possible, grade point average, and become this running track star, is what's expected of each of these kids. And they're supposed to hold this very rigorous lifestyle for 4 years straight, and then have enough energy to pursue a degree. What was emphasized to me before leaving for my exchange was the importance of integration. And so, as extracurriculars are very emphasized in US high schools, on par with grades actually, I joined cross-country, track and field, as well as a speech and debate program, which I will tell you about. Let's start with running. Every day after school, my teammates and I would go out to run for 1 to 1.5 hours each day. And we would be encouraged to keep with that training regimen on the weekends and any breaks we would have in school. There was even a special camp in the summer that students went on. Now, while this rigorous lifestyle did introduce many fast runners, it also ended in lasting injuries. And with almost every person on the squad having had either a shin splint or a stress fracture, meaning that their bones had literally not been able to take the pressure of them running themselves into the ground and had almost broken. It is not widely known how much just passion these students put into their lifestyles. Another extracurricular, which was a great experience, by the way, was my Lincoln Douglas debate class. Now, this is an example of the opportunities posed by US high schools. This was a specific class in which part of the curriculum we had argumentative lessons, public speaking coaching, as well as research abilities. Now, this was an amazing way to integrate these skills and teaching them to us that are not usually taught to students, but are still expected, which is public speaking. Now, this was actually very beneficial to each and every one of us because of the fact that it is useful in almost every different scenario. For instance, it's clearly worked out for me as I stand here before you today. Now, during my time in the US, I learned of an entirely new lifestyle. I was able to experience this amazing school spirit. I loved cheering on my high school sports teams like football and baseball, and I loved getting to attend prom and homecoming. But I also learned to reflect upon the chances and also the limitations posed upon us by different systems that we're in. For me, that is high school. And while the US high school is widely appreciated for seemingly providing students and encouraging soft skills, independent learning paths, and individual choices, that is not entirely correct. And everything we learn, we need to take with a grain of salt. Now, if we compare it to our Polish system, it is important to realize that we won't get a ranking of a better or worse education, but we'll realize that these are two approaches to the same issue of trying to create these smart and intellectual beings later on in life. With the Polish system being entirely institutionalized, with maturas dictating almost our entire high school careers, there is usually not much in terms of extracurriculars encouraged in Polish high schools. Students are usually just taught how to retain information and not how to utilize it in scenarios other than the classroom. And that is something that I would like to emphasize to you as very important to develop yourself outside of the schooling system. Another matter that is important to touch upon is students who don't go to college. In Poland, we do have trade schools, or work schools, as you'd call them, which enable students to have either a stable job after high school or still the opportunity retained to attend higher education. There's no such institution in the US, with them trying to accommodate each and every of their millions of students in one system.
usually that ends up not accommodating anyone and being too chaotic for a person to gain enough. A very important thing that I remember from before leaving on my exchange, when I announced it to my class, was one of my friends going, "But what is the reason for this? Why are you even doing this? If it's just gonna hold you back in school another year, you're not gonna gain anything in terms of grades or certificates academically." That is one of the messages I would like to leave you with today as an alumna of this program. Not everything we do has to benefit us in terms of having a write-up on it. I would like to inspire each and every one of us here to pursue and develop ourselves outside of the classroom or a system that we're in. I would like for each of the students here to pursue a hobby or go on an educational trip, anything that will help us become more knowledgeable and more confident in ourselves. Not everything we do needs to have a grade stamped on it. I fear that many of us are also losing the objective of what used to be learning, to simply gain more knowledge. And that is also what is very important to me. I would like for us all to grow into these intelligent and confident human beings that are not swayed by others' opinions, and are confident in themselves and their continuous potential. That doesn't end at high school, by the way. I would like to tell you all today to remember that an institution doesn't define you, that even if we end high school on a different note than others, there's still more to us. Thank you for your time.